Good afternoon, everybody. So we are here for the pre-final round of ADT Talk 2018-19. And we have finalized 17 speakers for ADT Talk 2018-19. And today we will be finalizing top 5 speakers of MIT ADT University. So to begin with today's program, I would request all our judges and Professor Meghna, Assistant Coordinator of School of Holistic Development, Professor Ratnesh Upadhyay, Ms. Swapnila Zavarkar, and Professor Tarun Chaturvedi to kindly be on the dais. Let us have a huge round of applause. So let me take this kind of opportunity to introduce all our judges. So we have Professor Ratnesh Upadhyay, CEO, Lisa Home Solutions Private Limited, an entrepreneur. Since 2008, he has been growing his business to bring crucial investors as well as critical talent to his organization. He has been able to create unique offering to the clientele base and to his organization, and has established firms in the market in the field of portfolio business and asset under management. He has worked for 7 years in software industry in various roles of developer to business analyst. He has founded Lisa Home Solutions, a real estate service company based out in Pune, which is India's second largest after Nestaway, with the highest number of portfolio business. A big round of applause for Professor Ratnesh Upadhyay. And now I request Professor Meghna Bumrah to kindly felicitate our judge with the tradition of MIT. Photo frame of philosopher Saint Jnaneshwar and Pasaidan. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Our next judge for today is Ms. Swapnila Zavarkar. She is an English communication, soft skills, and French language trainer. She has worked with various organizations like Infosys, Mphasis, Jenny CMS. She is also into freelancing training of English and soft skills as well as French language. She also brings to her credit an internationally recognized course that is TEFL, Teaching English as a Foreign Language. She is a core team member in writing and editing a dictionary cum word activator published by Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samaj, Nasik. She, in her spare time, loved to translate some storybooks. She has, in her illustrious training career, has trained more than 4,000 students, teachers, lecturers, professionals, and working professionals in the corporate sector as well as in education sector. So let us felicitate, let us welcome our judge for today, Ms. Swapnila Zavarkar, with a huge round of applause. I request once again Professor Meghna Bumrah, following the tradition of MIT. With shawl, Pasaidan, and photo frame of philosopher Saint Sri Jnaneshwara. Thank you. And now, our third judge for today is Professor Tarun Chaturvedi. Tarun sir is heading a newly established organization, MIT School of Corporate Innovation and Leadership. He's our very own family member. He aims to facilitate avid life inquirers embark their life transformation journeys, help them unleash their potential and build human capabilities within and beyond. He has leadership stints across diverse industries such as manufacturing, IT, and professional services, as well as training and education and diverse roles such as consultant, facilitator, educator, functional leader, manager, mentor, and academic administrator, with some of the best corporate group and premier institutions in India such as Tata Chemicals, Zensa Technologies, and IIM Lucknow, to name a few. He likes to read and trek in his spare time. He has facilitated various consulting, training, and organizational transformation assignments with Indian and global MNCs and helped them embark organizational improvmental voyage. So let us welcome Professor Tarun Chaturvedi with a huge round of applause. And I request Professor Meghna Bumrah to felicitate Professor Tarun Chaturvedi. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. So, students, in no time, we will begin our pre-final round of ADD talk. And once again, I would request all of you to boost your own motivation, as well as once again welcoming all the three judges for today, Professor Ratnesh Upadhyay, Professor Swapnila Zavarkar, and Professor Tarun Chaturvedi. I request our judges to kindly take the seats. Just to quickly brief all our candidates for today's rules. As you all are aware of all the rules of ADD Talk, but the only difference for today is about the time limit. The time limit for today's talk is 2+1. I will be calling out any random number between 1 to 17. And we will be having our very own ringing bell. After the completion of 2 minutes, I will ring a bell. That will be your warning bell. And post that within 1 minute, you have to complete your speech. So today's time limit is 2+1. That's the bell. Familiar?
Have you got the code number, all the participant? 1 to 17? Is there anyone who hasn't got the code number? 1 to 17. Please remember your code number. You have to mention your code number and topic. There is no any code number for topic this time. So you have to mention the topic. Is that clear? Yeah? Okay.
So I would request our kind judges to kindly pick up 3 chits for today, and accordingly we will begin our today's speech. So we have number 16, followed by 4, and followed by 9. So we will begin today's speech with 16, followed by 4, number 4, and then 9. Participants ready? Judges ready? So with a huge round of applause, let us welcome candidate number 16.
So, good afternoon. I am contestant number 16. So, should I start? So, I have chose to speak on the topic feminism. Recently, in last year, I took one survey and I asked my friends, family, whoever came in my contact, I asked them 2 questions. First question, do you support the idea of feminism? And second, would you like to call yourself a feminist? And I was shocked to hear their answer. So the most common answer that I got was, yeah, I do support feminism up to some extent, but I may not call myself a feminist. I asked them the reason behind it, and the answer I got is, yeah, I support girl power, but I don't support the idea of saying that women are stronger than men. Women are equal to men. But that's what feminism actually means. So the problem why people don't support feminism is not the idea behind feminism, but it is the misconception that makes them to believe that feminism is something that we shouldn't support. So I am a proud feminist, no doubt. And it's not only about females, it's also about males. Because males also go through some emotional disturbances. Even they can cry. Every boy who is crying, little boy, you might have heard that. You're not a girl to cry, don't be such a girl. Everyone says that. But is it really like that? Like all girls cry? No, it's not like that, because I remember myself, when I was crying, nobody said me that you're not a boy to cry. Or nobody said me that you're a girl, you should cry, just cry. No, it's not like that. So even males go through some emotional problems, they go through some physical, which they are not really fit. Sometimes it happens, and that's why they don't come out. They don't speak about their problems because it makes them less of a man. At least it makes them think like that, just because of the gender stereotypes. And it shouldn't be like that. So I think we should just hold our hands together and stand up and just support them. Just give those a hand who really need it. Let's give those women a hand to come up. Let's give those men to come up and show their weaknesses. Let's help them in coming forward. And let's tell them that you shouldn't hide them, because those women in history, those great leaders, they stood there. That's the reason why I am standing in front of you. That's the reason why I can speak openly about feminism and supporting us, supporting every other gender who feels insecure just because of their gender. That's not something you should feel. Do you feel like that? And one might say that, yeah, I support feminism, I am a feminist. So what? What next? Well, I, being a feminist, use this opportunity to tell you that what feminism actually means. And if you go somewhere outside and make others feel that what feminism is, and let them know that what feminism actually means and you should support, you all are in mobiles and Instagram, there might be some now, so you should just post something about that, because not everyone gets that support. There are still women who are suffering to study, but they can't because their family doesn't support. We stay in Loni. There are still some people, and we need to help them. It's not that Loni is, backward or something like that, and Pune is like that. But where we stay, we don't know what actually people are going through. And that's why, to know that, I think we should go into the roots, and we should look at them, and we should feel that, and we should help them. So let us all join our hands, and let us just say that, yes, I am a proud feminist. Whether you may be a female or a male or any other gender, you should be a feminist. You should support feminism. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, contestant number 16. And now our next contestant for our pre-final round is number 4. So with a huge round of applause, let us welcome contestant number 4 with a huge round of applause.
Hi, I'm contestant number 4, and my topic for today is our need for validation. So when I was a young girl, there would be a bunch of people who would ask me, what superpower would you like to have? And without any hesitation whatsoever, I'd say, I want to read minds. Because imagine that. Imagine knowing everyone's secrets. Imagine knowing their passwords. Imagine knowing their plans for the future. And imagine knowing what they feel about you. Because that was so important to me back then. Because when I was a young girl, I wanted to be able to please other people. And I realized later that other people loving me is not a criteria for me loving myself. Besides, the power of reading minds is overpowered as heck. And who wants to be a character in a story who is overpowered as heck? Because that's a boring story. When you are a Mary Sue, when you have everything you need to overcome a certain situation right on your hands, served to you in a silver platter without having to go through any of the effort that it takes, then what's the point? I like to think that self-development is like a hero's journey. You have to be able to overcome self-doubt. And that the process of overcoming it makes you a person who you can be happy with, makes you a person whose moral values match what they do and say, and not just what they say to other people because they want to please other people. Now, that's not to say that what other people say does not matter at all. Of course it does. We try to present ourselves to people as the best versions of ourselves. I want to be the best version of myself right now, but I'm a developing character. And I have I know that because I don't know for sure, because there is some sort of uncertainty, I can ask for feedback. And that is so important because when you ask for feedback and when you don't know for sure if what the feedback you're getting is truly what the person thinks, then you have the opportunity to think about their background. You have the opportunity to empathize with that person and know where the reactions are coming from. And that grows you. And I think that's just beautiful. Becoming a character who can develop. And y'all should consider yourselves very lucky that you can't read minds, because you're developing, and people and characters who can don't get that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. There was contestant number 4. And our next contestant is number 9. These were the 3 contestants chosen by our very own judges. So please welcome with a huge round of applause, contestant number 9. Contestant number 9. Okay. Please welcome contestant number 3 for our next performance.
My contestant code is 3. So it's an early morning and the local travelers are stringing up the railway ticket counter for their tickets on a very crowded railway station. But across the railway line, there's a different flock gathered, each person on its own, separated by a bijou distance. These are among the 45% of this Indian population that do not have access to proper sanitation. They are all squatting beneath the trees and the bushes along the elevated railway lines. They are defecating in the open. We have all seen them, haven't we? Also, not so surprisingly, this is what they call their morning ritual every time the nature calls. Hello and a very good afternoon. I'm here to talk about some of the most basic and realistic dreams that should not let this country sleep. India achieved its first dream when she got her independence on 15th of August 1947. We've come a long way since then, but that list has continuously prolonged, with equality, sanitation, education, and poverty still topping the list of dreams that are yet to be fulfilled. We dreamt of a country where everybody lives together as one. But I think you would all agree that even now when we switch on to the news channel, we see another news about a Hindu-Muslim fight. That makes me think at times that will we ever achieve unity, even when now we are fighting over the Ayodhya dispute. We still haven't decided whether that ground belongs to the Ram Mandir or the Babri Masjid, even though there are thousands of people in this country who still go to sleep every night without a roof on their head. We dreamt of a country where a girl can walk on the streets alone at night without thinking twice, because that is the safety that we have provided for her. I dreamt of a country where a woman can be a single mother, where a woman can adopt a child, or maybe even abort her child without a single eye batting at her in the society, because that is her decision. I'm not here to talk to you about women empowerment for the daughter of this country, but I'm standing here to plead you to give an equal status to her, not as a daughter of the country, but as an equal citizen of this country. I dreamt of a country where, along with projects to clean the roads, there were projects to clean the minds of the people. I dreamt of a country where everybody works hard and gets the job they deserve. I dreamt of a country where corruption hasn't taken over so completely that the people have lost faith in the government. I dreamt of a country where every individual is accepted as one of its own. I dreamt of a country where homosexuals, bisexuals, and transgenders are not considered unnatural. I do not stand here and list all these dreams to you so that you can sit here, listen to me now, and forget when this is over. But I stand here to ask you, to plead you, and to urge you to bring the change that you want to see in this world. This is your country as much as it is mine. And if you want to see a change, you need to bring it. We have been complaining over the years about how unsafe and corrupt this country is. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to ask you, have you ever done anything to change it? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, contestant number 3. That was contestant number 3. And our next contestant is number 8. So with a huge round of applause, please welcome contestant number 8.
A very good afternoon to one and all. My code is 8, and today I'm here to discuss on the topic called leadership. So what is leadership? Leadership is the process of converting a vision into reality. It is an unavoidable phenomenon in which where there are people, there are associations, and where there are associations, there are leaders. Every day when we talk about leadership, we come across a question, that is, are leaders born or are they made? So, in reality, actually leaders are born as well as they are made. The born leaders, we can identify them on the leadership traits such as compassion, generosity, then caring for others, then vision, a strong vision, passion, hardworking, etc. The best example of a born leader is our freedom fighter Mahatma Gandhi, because he took bullets for his own followers, for his nation. And he had all the qualities of a born leader. Moving further, on the other hand, the self-made leaders are the ones who have a very strong passion, who lack in leadership qualities, but they do develop leadership qualities according to when they are achieving their vision. The best example of a made leader is Elon Musk. Elon Musk was thrown out of his company 3 times from 3 different companies. But later on, he emerged as the best, the most influential person in the Forbes list. He's also He's also the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, Hyperloop, etc. So, my friends, remember one thing. Leadership is all about action. It is not about the position. It is who we are, what we do, what are our actions, and how we treat others, and how we make decisions. As you see, leading a life and living a life are two different things. To conclude, I would say, as a leader, our actions reflect our character, our integrity, and our ability to be a caring human being. So let's decide if we want to lead our life or just live our life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was contestant number 8. And our next contestant is number 11. So, with a huge round of applause, let's welcome contestant number 11.
Good afternoon, judges and my dear friends. I am contestant number 11, and my topic for today is social media and Indian women. Just one question to all of you. When you sleep, what is the last thing that you all do? And when you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing that we all do? I'm sure you're thinking the same, right? You check your cell phones. You check Twitter, you check Instagram, you check WhatsApp, right? So this means that social media is very important part of our life. Now, in today's speech, I am going to tell you how social media is related to Indian women. The first positive example is our External Affairs Minister, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj. She uses her Twitter account so efficiently and effectively that she helps most of the people across the world. One example I would give you what she has done. She received a video on her Twitter account. It was tweeted, and she acted upon the video, and she was able to rescue 168 Indians who were stuck in Iraq. So that is the power of social media. The second example is on Facebook. There is a group of 2 lakh ladies on Facebook. The name of the group is Pooler Group. On that group, there are ladies who have a lot of skills and they are talented. They showcase their skills and talent through this medium. They post their ads for free. They don't have to pay anything. Now, for example, I am a baker. I cook lovely, yummy cakes. I don't have the financial ability to set up a fancy bakery or to post ads or the hoardings. So what I do is I just post on the Facebook page, and whoever is interested, remember 2 lakh ladies are watching this. If anybody is interested, they will get in touch with me and my business will eventually increase. Now, these are the positives that I've told you. Sadly, there are negatives as well. Recently, there was a report wherein a girl committed suicide, and the reason for suicide was her obscene video went viral on social media. She could not bear the pressure of it, so she committed suicide. Recently in the newspaper, it was just a month back, I read, a woman, mother of 2 children, she was forced to leave her house and she was forced to divorce. The reason being her obscene and morphed images were posted on WhatsApp. She has filed a case to prove her innocence in the court. She may be proved innocent, but justice is not made to her. So to conclude, I would like to say that social media is a very sharp sword. How we use it is up to us. So let's be smart. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, contestant number 11. And our next contestant is number 17. Let's welcome number 17 with a huge round of applause.
My contestant code is 17. A very warm and a pleasant good afternoon to one and all present here. I feel privileged to share the dais in front of such a knowledgeable audience. Today, I would like to share my views on the topic success. What is success? It is the achievement of something that you have been trying to do. It is the accomplishment of a goal or a task. It is defined as the materialistic gain you possess, the amount of assets that you have, and the social status that you attain. But in reality, It is a peace of mind which is direct result of your self-satisfaction in knowing that you made the efforts to do your best, to become the best which you are capable of becoming. Success is an attitude. The ladder of success is never crowded at the top. There is a curve called failure. There is a loop called confusion. There are speed breakers called friends. There is some amount of perseverance which is your engine. And there is a driver which motivates you, compels you, and forces you to go on and on. That is your willpower. Only as high as you reach can you be. Only as far as you see can you go. Only as deep as you look can you be. And only as many dreams as you have can you see. In today's age of ruthlessness, recklessness, and restlessness, you need to constantly enhance, assess, access, intensify, and influence yourself. For that, you require an attitude to succeed. There was an old wise owl. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. So why can't we all be like the old wise bird? In your life, be true to yourself, be genuine, be honest, and be pragmatic. Because you know what? You can fool some of the people all of the time. You can fool all of the people some of the time. But you know what? You cannot fool all of the people all of the time. I end my speech with a haiku. Determined he was, defeated. He said, no way. Lincoln succeeded. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, contestant number 17. And our next contestant is number 6. With a huge round of applause, let us welcome contestant number 6.
A ship without rudder goes directionless. So, the teacher is the one who leads from the front and guides like a lighthouse to achieve the goal. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm Pauline with my topic, Student-Teacher Relationship, Guru-Sishya Parampara. It is just not an emotion or a concept of just learning things from the teacher, but it is a thing that teacher shares. She helps us learn new things in different ways. She teaches us how to learn things and how to adapt it. It is just not learning things from the syllabus that is provided by the government or any, say, CBSE or ICSE board, but it is a thing, it is an emotion that is we get from the teacher. I would like to tell you, teacher is the one who helps us in every way, just not in academics, but also when you are depressed and sitting alone, she comes and asks you, how are you and what are you doing? When you don't come to class, she comes and asks you, how is your health and how is your health? While talking about this, I would like to state about my SSG teachers. I am a student who don't go to classes regularly, but then they help me to come, and when they have a connection with me, we have an emotional bonding. That is when we feel like going to the classes and attending the lectures. And talking about things, what teacher is always strict in class, but then when you come out of the classroom, they help you to learn new things apart from syllabus and apart from academics. They help you how to live your life and how to go forward in your life. I would like to say teaching is the most hardest job. It is to mold teacher has this magical power to mold any sort of child they come across. Either it's being silent or naughty or too much. Thank you.
Let us motivate her. That was contestant number 6. Our next contestant is number 13. Contestant number 13. This is the pre-final talk. I understand a lot of you are very nervous, and I request the audience to keep boosting up their motivation level. Claps would be sufficient.
My code number is 13. My message, especially to the young people, is to have courage to think differently, courage to invent, to travel the unexplored path, courage to discover the impossible and conquer problems to succeed. Such were the words of Dr. Kalam. He thought big, and the world readily followed him. And if each of us truly wish to think bigger and achieve our goals, then we have a very tempting one option left: to join hands with the all-fascinating world of technology. Esteemed members of the jury, my dearest teachers, and to the wonderful audience seated before me, I wish each and every one of you a delightful noon. Today, I stand before you to speak on the topic, the digital divide is a secondary problem in the educational needs of developing countries. A touch and a click, lo and behold, within a matter of 2 to 3 seconds, the size of the world gets minimized into that of a screen. While you scroll down the page, eyes darting here and there for just another piece of information. Sounds familiar? It's nothing but, to use a common phrase, information at our fingertips. But the question that really arises here is, how many of us, we worldly citizens, actually have the world on our fingertips? Sad to say that, but the digital divide present across the globe has done its work to ensure that while some countries enjoy using smart boards to raise its student community, developing nations struggle hard to even spread news of the location of a school. While developed nations use technology and resources at a speed that even defies the fundamental laws of physics, developing nations grope in the dark to gain access to this super digital world. It's not about the self-pity or the self-reliance that we see. Just a simple story of how the inaccess to our own inventions has restricted the path of dreams, the thirst for knowledge, to learn and to discover. If we truly yearn to achieve 100% world literacy level, whether in developing or in developed countries, then it's not a small role that the World Wide Web plays. It can no doubt connect the dots and give us a complete version of the jigsaw puzzle pattern of world wisdom. If we truly wish to uphold our future generations for everything they have seen or heard so far, let us hope and wish that the boons of technology shall help us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, contestant number 13. And our next contestant is number 5. Contestant number 5.
Is my lipstick looking all right? Oh, sorry, I forgot about it. Good afternoon to one and all present over here. My contestant code is 5 and my topic for today is history of makeup. Now, cosmetics like lipstick or powder applied to your face to enhance or alter your appearance is called as makeup. Guess what? Like, makeup was earlier done for clowns, but now it's done for everyone. And makeup was, being an art student, I used to think that brushes are limited to art only. But now it has extended up to faces as well. I mean, you have blending brush, round brush, thick brush, thin brush, every type of brush. I mean, I'm not able to get that. Art brushes are too hard to identify, and now faces, I mean, how is it possible? Now, next you have curlings. Curlings were used for hairstyles, but now they are used for eyelashes as well. I mean, just think about it. These people have fake eyelashes, which are put on the real ones. It's like one blink and there's a whoosh of air. It's like, Then, not only that, makeup has also evolved a lot. It has been used for various styles as well. Like, take dance form, for example, Kathakali. Even makeup, it reflects our culture. For Indians, we have bindi. Not only that, makeup has also, without makeup, I look like, what do we call? Yeah, take out my Aadhaar card, I look like that. Makeup. Then, any idea when did makeup actually originated, when the concept actually originated? It started like 7,000 years ago. We have been doing makeup since 7,000 years. And any idea who is the culprit? Egyptians. They are the ones who started it. Now, they used lead copper and, lead copper. They used berries to stain their lips. They used the ingredients they used were fruits, flowers, vegetables, brandy, and many different, crushed berries. And they used kajal as well to, highlight their eyelids and eyelashes. I have done it. Can you see that? They also used hair dyes, Hina, the famous brand. It has been going on since that time. And in conclusion, I would like to say one thing, that 5 minute or, yeah, that is a soul line when it comes to doing makeup. And beauty is not only about, getting comfortable in your own skin, but also knowing and accepting who you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, contestant number 5. Today, I understand it is really a big day for these 17 candidates and the kind of pressure these people are going through. And we all are cherishing their moments. We are supporting them. That is the beauty of MIT ADT. Let us call our next contestant, number 14. Contestant number 14, with a huge round of applause. Is contestant number 14 here? So our next contestant is number 2. Contestant number 2. Number 12, do we have number 12? So a huge round of applause for contestant number 12. Judges, please note our next contestant is number 12. So we have number 12 here. Post that, we will have number 7, then 15, and number 2. Judges ready?
Shall I? So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry? Okay. So, my contestant number is 12, and my topic is, do you have a problem? Like, really, it is, do you have a problem? Handicapped, not us. Handicapped mindset of the society. That is what it is. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, all the Stephen Hawking fans, give me a cheer. Pretty much than I expected. I thought I got to repeat it. Okay. So, whenever you people, see a picture of Sir Stephen Hawking, what do you think? What a brilliant man. A man of brilliance he is. What a genius. Right? Am I? Yes. Or do you just whisper in your, whisper to the dude sitting next to you, dude, why is in that wheelchair? What's wrong with him? You don't do that, right? So why do you do that to someone who is on the exactly same wheelchair down the lane? Why do you got to stare them again and again and make them feel that yes, maybe you have a problem? Sometimes with your expressions, sometimes with your words, and sometimes with that whispering that goes on with the group all the time. Guys, I've been on the stage from last 6.5 years now. I've been from street shows to the national stage. And prior my performance, people are like, oh my God, poor girl. And I'm like, sorry? And I am like, okay, fine. But after my performance, they're like, you were good. I'm like, thank you. And from some or the other manner, this statement comes, we never knew you could speak. I was like, why? I have a deformed limb and I guess you speak with the mouth. And I have one. Am I right with this? So, there was this time I was doing an event in my college. I was the anchor over there. When I was climbing the stairs, a girl came up to me and she's like, oh, darling, you have a problem. I was like, no, I don't have any problems, but may I help you with something as I am the student coordinator over here? And she was like, okay. And trust me, guys, I still don't know why this reaction came up to me. So, yeah, it goes like this every time. And I have been researching on this topic from very long, on this, oh my God, this poor girl, oh my God. I have been working on this topic from very long. And a lot of times I hear this, that, darling, we are concerned. Darling, we are really worried. But for your kind information, I'll tell you 2 surveys that we did. I have this friend, he has he has this syndrome, which is known as muscular dystrophy. Okay, I guess you people might be knowing about the reserved seats for handicapped people in the buses. Yes or no? Yeah, so we made him travel, like we made him board from one bus to another, another to another, another to another. Trust me, guys, that guy kept standing for fucking 4 hours. I'm really sorry to use this word. For 4 hours he was there, but none of the person was there to give him the seat. Not even the reserved one. And then you come up to me and you tell me that you are concerned. I'm really sorry you're not concerned. Okay, one question. I'm here. Am I cool enough to be your friend? Am I? I don't drink and smoke. This is honest. You can ask from my friends over there. Yeah, so I don't drink and smoke. I have a deformed limb. Am I cool enough to be your friend? Yes. So that means that you people are telling me that how I look does not matter, right? Yes. And I can be your friend. Yes. So it should not even matter when you see someone like me in the street. You need to see us with all the equality and all the support and not the sympathy. And stop making us realize that we do have a problem because we don't have a problem. The problem is not my limb, the problem is not my wheelchair, the problem is not my walking stick. The problem is the attitude of you people. So change it, let's be equal. Thank you, that's all from my side.
Thank you. Thank you, contestant number 12. Our next contestant is number 7. So let us welcome contestant number 7 with a huge round of applause. Judges, please note, contestant number 7.
A very good afternoon to everyone out here. I'm contestant number 7, and I'm going to be talking about how religion can be misleading today. So for all of us who have been brought up amongst different religious environments, since childhood we've been taught about what we are supposed to believe in. As we grow up and with the growing generations, we start to accept new ideas and recognize them. But still, when it comes to religion, we somehow end up justifying things that we probably do not even believe in. And I want you to look at this from a different perspective today, through the means of a story. So my story is a hypothetical one. There is this woman who starts flirting with a man. And it turns out that this man is already married. This married man has a brother who gets very offended by this. So what he does is he takes a knife and slashes her nose off. And this, my friends, is the story of Surpanakha that we've been hearing for ages. But suddenly when we remove the religious element from it and look at it from a contemporary perspective, suddenly we don't hate Surpanakha that much anymore. Now, entering sensitive territory, an angry brother Ravan abducts Sita in a fit of rage. And according to myth, does not even touch her. Now, I'm not justifying the act of kidnapping somebody, but we hate this man so much. We have been burning his statues for hundreds of years when we do not do enough to punish criminals, murderers, and rapists who have done much worse than what this man did back then. For these criminals, we have mercy and we have long court procedures. But Ravan we hate. What is even more interesting is the kind of people we are told to worship. And I would like to apologize in advance to anybody that I'm about to offend. Please don't stab me after the event. But now Sita has come back home after years, okay? And she's about to enter the door, and she's standing on her doorstep when suddenly the laundry person comes in, and he says to the husband, "Oh, but she's been away for a long time. Do you think something must have happened with her?" And to this, the husband goes, "Oh, I think he's right. We should go and get checked at this clinic called Agni Pariksha." And Sita complies to this massive insult. Now, when we look at it from this perspective, it becomes all very clear, but we haven't questioned this over the ages because we become defensive about our religion. We're not open to any form of constructive criticism. Instead, we like getting offended. And this is true for all religions out there. Every religion has at least one thing that is irrelevant and oppressive today, which people continue to follow. We need to understand that in order for any growth to happen, we need to listen and acknowledge it with reasoning. Religion, when followed rightly, can be spiritual, but when followed blindly, it is the end to all growth. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, contestant number 7. Our next contestant, my dear friends, is number 15. So please welcome our next contestant, number 15.
A pleasant good afternoon to all the judges and the entire August gathering. My code number is 15, and today I'll be talking about something which is very much neglected in our society. Guess what? Mental health. Now, to begin with, I'd like to explain the concept of mental illness. Now, medically speaking, mental illness is the physical illness of the brain and which causes disturbances in your emotions, thought process, or thoughts and everything. And because of these disturbances, we have changes in our daily life and we are not able to cope with all our lifestyles that we're dealing with. So, we have often heard that we're a generation for whom depression is the new cool. How many of you agree that we're a generation for whom depression is the new cool? How many of you have met people who claim that we are depressed? How many of you claim them seriously? Hardly a handful of them. Now, according to a recent survey, it was taken out that 19% of adults, 46% of teenagers, and 13% of children go through mental illnesses. Now, about all the teenagers who are so-called depressed or actually depressed, the first thing that they hear is, what is it that you have to be depressed about? You have a good family, loving friends, and everything else. But my dear people, the first thing I'd like to tell is, you do not have to be raped, dragged, bullied, or anything else traumatized to be depressed. Depression can come to anywhere, anyhow. The major causes of depression, if I tell you, is genetical, chemical imbalance, brain structure, and sometimes can be because of some trauma. A person like Deepika Padukone, who I guess all of us idealize, we love her, she's beautiful, she's tremendous, she's an amazing actor. But how many of you know that she was a major survivor of medical depression? Almost all of us know. And how many of you make fun of her that she was a depressed soul and she's now openly talking about it? People who are amongst us are made fun of that they talk about depressed people. I personally shared my sister was recently detected with medical depression. And I'm ashamed of the fact that sometimes I make fun of her, like, hey, pagal, pagal, pagal karke. But, you know, she starts crying about it. And that is when it hit me that depression is not a joke. And if you make fun of somebody who's mentally ill, then I just say that if you're making fun of somebody who's mentally ill, you're mentally sick. And I guess our society will grow the day when we start taking World Mental Health Day more seriously than Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, contestant number 15. And our next contestant is number 2. So with a huge round of applause, please welcome contestant number 2.
Here's a nation, one of the founding pillars of whose are the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. And yet, we choose to impose ourselves upon people's restrictions, upon what they can say and what they can think. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I'm contestant number 2, and my topic today is censorship, a violation of our freedom of speech. To understand the topic in depth, we first need to understand the meaning of these terms. Censorship is defined as something that oppresses or puts away anything that is deemed as offensive. We see these in our everyday lives as examples in the form of radios or televisions that bleep out terms that are considered inappropriate. But this is not all that censorship is. Censorship today is in places and in forms that one can only imagine. If you have ever been banned from reading a book in your school, or you have ever seen a movie that is cleaner than the original version, then you have experienced censorship. You experience censorship when you are told to stay hush about something, when you are advised to refrain from talking about something, even if it's something that you believe in. Refraining obscene material to pertain in the society not only makes it harder, but also more desirable to acquire. Most of the people resort to illegal forms of circulating these materials that are termed as inappropriate. Understandably, today we do need to put a filter in the things that come out in today's society. But too many people have a right over someone's freedom, and that is clearly something that we need to change. India is a country filled with rights, one of the most important being the freedom of expression. The freedom of speech forms an umbrella of protective over the remainder of these rights. However, if we continue to give the power to arbitraries to tell us what we are allowed to speak about, we threaten our own democracy. India is a nation of ideas, an idea of a forever, forever land, a nation that has come together from ancient civilization that stands united because we have a shared history and sustains because we have a plural democracy. So the question today still pertains. Are we truly doing justice by the rights amended to us? Thank you.
Thank you, contestant number 2. And our next contestant is number 10. Do we have number 10? Please welcome contestant number 10.
Respected judges and my dear friends, a very good afternoon to one and all. I'm contestant number 10. So today I would like to ask you all something. Have you all heard about the Samsung bribery charges case of 2016, where Samsung dealt with exploding Note 7 batteries, and the Kingfisher Airlines case, where Vijay Mallya had to pay rupees 7,000 crores to various banks, but he fled away from India? Yes, you may all have heard about it. And these are cases of unethical behavior in businesses. These are not the only ones. So today, I would like to talk about the topic, ethics in business. So what is ethics? Ethics is the code of values which decides man's choices and actions. Those choices and actions which we get to see in a man. We determine how the man is working or how he is influencing others. Ethics concerns individuals' moral judgments and values. Decision taken within an organization by individuals or by groups, it all depends on how ethical the organization works, because it follows the culture of the organization. So, ethics is very essential in our day-to-day life. Employees working within an organization must decide which track to follow, what is the right course of action, and thus they should include or exclude what is right and wrong. They should exclude the path which leads to short-term successes. Let us take the example of the Tata Group. In the 2611 attacks, the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, owned by the Tata Group, suffered high damages. And during this time, the hotel was closed. Each and every employee, even the ones who worked for a single day as casuals, was treated on duty during this period when the hotel was closed. Salaries were paid to them by money orders, Relief and assistance was provided to each and every individual who was affected or killed. The company also provided employee outreach centers where all help, food, sanitation, water, all first aid, and even counseling was provided to them. So this is what we say about ethics. This is what a company should follow, ethical behavior. And this is how the Tata Group proved themselves ethically in business. Another example I would like to say is of Cadbury Schweppes. Cadbury Schweppes was noticed for its good practices when it was voted one of the most admired companies for community and environmental responsibility by magazine Today India. And so this is how we get to know that when someone is well recognized, when they follow ethics. So I would like to conclude my speech by saying that ethics is not just important in business, but it is also important in our day-to-day lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Contestant number 10. Our next contestant is number 1. Contestant number 1.
Throughout the year, we shop for our beloved ones, finding the perfect gift to give them. But on the other side, there are people who are hoping to receive a gift, not so neatly wrapped. They hope to get a second chance at life. Right now, there are 105,000 people who are waiting in a line just to get an organ donor to get a life-saving organ transplant. Sadly, there aren't a number of yeses to go ahead with this. Good afternoon, everyone. My contestant code number is 1, and the topic that I'm going to talk today is the gift of life, an organ donation. 1 heart, 2 lungs, 2 kidneys, a liver, a pancreas, intestines. It is believed that a single person can save up to 8 people's lives, and at certain circumstances, when the liver is split, 9 lives. Other parts like the cornea, the blood vessels, the tendons, the bones, the blood, can save or enhance at least 50 people of lives. If you aren't an organ donor when you die, you're going to be killing a lot of people, which is already happening. For example, every hour there's 1 person who's dying because they couldn't get an organ donor. Every organ has a list. The only thing that's common is that the need of the organ is much higher than the availability. Last summer, I had the opportunity to go to the Trust Hospital in Chennai, where I came across a lot of patients. And one of them was waiting for a kidney for about 2 to 3 years, which is very sad, because a kidney failure is something very common. There are short-term processes, like treatments like dialysis. But the problem with dialysis is that someone who's undergoing dialysis, the chances of getting a cardiovascular disease is really high. So the best answer at that time is to replace the diseased organ with the healthy one. I want you to realize that we should all be a part of this cycle of life. We should not wait for occasions to donate blood, which is the most simple thing that you can donate at the moment. There are really, I've met patients who, it's not only the patient, but it's all the entire family what goes through. You see hope, you see pain, and you see a lot of waiting. And despite years of waiting, they have, that hope that's remarkable because they want to live that life. And that's very important. There are 2 types of donations, a living and when you're going to die. And you can still donate something. And if you don't know, a part of your liver can save someone while you're living. It's important. I want you to be a part of this cycle. I want you to understand the magnitude of this issue. I want you to donate an organ. It could be your blood. Start with that. We live on when we hear someone else's heartbeat. And the feeling of satisfaction because you give a part of yourself so that someone else can live. You're going to live not only with them, but with their families and friends. So I conclude my speech. I don't want you to go home thinking how disturbing it is, but I want you to give a thought to be a part of this cycle of life. Give these extraordinary gifts from ordinary you and me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, contestant number 1. And our next contestant is number 14. A huge round of applause in welcoming contestant number 14. I need a huge round of applause for contestant number 14.
Good afternoon, respected jury and my fellow students. I'm contestant number 14, and today I'll be talking on the topic, even a stopped clock shows the right time twice a day. Even a stopped clock shows the right time twice a day. The meaning of this proverb lies in our perspectives of our lives. We often come across the argument whether smart work overshadows hard work. Hard work is something putting in a lot of effort and time to be able to do certain amount of work, whereas smart work is putting in less amount of time and still being able to perform that amount of work. It is wrong to believe that anything can be achieved by just laboring for it. No doubt, it does create the right ladder, but our mind and our perspectives are the greatest assets that achieve it all. We believe that in order to have what others don't, we must do what others won't. We believe that every individual stands out in their own way, and that the contrast and comparison of others that often leaves us with a sorrowful heart. Virat Kohli did not want to become the second Sachin Tendulkar, but wanted to be the very first run machine. When we speak, we think about how others are going to have a perception of ourselves. But we forget that how we picture ourselves is not what matters. But just like the two sides of the coin, we need to perceive ourselves in two beliefs. Just for the ones who see a stopped clock, they're always going to blame the opportunities and not question their abilities. But the ones who see the right time twice a day are the ones who are going to strive for success and transform their energies into realities and work for success. The ones that don't know how to see this are the ones that are transforming. When we change our beliefs, where we believe that happiness is not possession but a mere state of mind, where we believe that we need a product of our imagination and not labor, where we think that whatever we hear are just mere opinions and not facts, and whatever we see are just perspectives and not the truth. When we change this thinking ability, we'll change the way we look at things, and then the things we'll look at will automatically change. Thank you.
Thank you, contestant number 14. And our last contestant for today's pre-final round is number 9. So let us welcome number 9, our last contestant, top 17 contestant of ADT Talk 2018-19.
To smile and strongly stand in front of troubles and understand that joys and sorrows are a thing that comes to us as life's rings. Good afternoon to one and all, respected jury and my dear friends. Today, code number 9, is going to speak on the topic, positive thinking, a way of life. So who said life is a cakewalk? It's a topsy-turvy road, just like a Ferris wheel, certain to reach the top of the world. It's a very simple phrase that positive thinking is a way of life. But in reality, it's like an ocean. That whole world is in its womb. And the moment we realize that we have discovered its secret, it comes out with something new every time. You must have seen some people who are getting defeated every day. in life. They are complaining, fuming, fretting about everything that is happening in their life. They say that life is giving them bad breaks. But in my point of view, at least we can determine the duration of those breaks by our attitude. Life is like a fertile soil. Whatever you sow, you reap it back. Also, social media plays a very important role in creating our thought process. When we scroll through Instagram, Facebook, we compare ourselves with the elitist of elites. We create our own niche of thoughts that are highly imaginative and toxic. It might even lead to depression. We have a very rosy picture of our society, developing societies, fancy things. But deep down we know that our thought process is very crippled and unhealthy. So to create positivity, to create tranquility of mind, there is one step. That is called specific articulation. Even in the midst of your daily work, drive positive thoughts in your consciousness to create a positive aura around you. Life is just 10% what happens to us, and 90% how we react to those situations. In the end, I want to conclude with a phrase from Bible, that is, 3 times in a day, repeat this affirmation as loud as possible, that I will be glad and I will rejoice this moment. I will be glad and I will rejoice this moment. Our mind has immense energies and we need to harness our energies till perfection. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our last contestant. That was contestant number 9. And here we come to an end of our top 17 speakers for ADT Talk 2018-19. There are a couple of announcements here. I will go through the topics for our final round, and meanwhile we can also enjoy the tea arrangement that we have arranged for all our audience. I will take you them through the topics for that. So we have 10 topics for our final round. Topic number 1 is Indian cinema shape our popular culture or merely reflect it. I repeat, Indian cinema shape our popular culture or merely reflect it. Topic number 2 is demographic dividend in India. Demographic dividend in India. Topic number 3, equating everything with money and material goods tends to play havoc with the psychology of the youth. Equating everything with money and material goods tends to play havoc with the psychology of the youth. Topic number 4, in the era of artificial intelligence. In the era of artificial intelligence. Topic number 5, holistic development is the key to become winning personality. Topic number 5, holistic development is the key to become winning personality. Topic number 6, the congruence of science, technology, and spirituality is the panacea for the growth of the nation. Topic number 7, social media, the harbinger of silent revolution. Topic number 8, the new emerging women power, the ground realities. Topic number 9, protection of ecology and environment is essential for sustained economy. Topic number 10, need brings greed. If need increases, it spoils breed. Need brings greed. If need increases, it spoils breed. These are the 10 topics for the final round. We will be sending all the 10 topics to the top 5 contestants. This was just for the information. And now, my dear audience, you can enjoy the tea and snack we have arranged outside.